Hi mga ka-KJ, this is Ken and this is welcome to Learning and Exploring with Ken and Jen. So, ang topic natin para sa araw na ito is RFBT, Introduction to Obligation by Kenneth Cañada. So, ito po ay isang subject sa BSA kung saan tunghayan o may encounter ninyo ito sa mga higher years ng BSA or Bachelor of Science in Accountancy o sa kursong Accountancy. So, let's start. Overview, law on business transactions. So, ito po ay outline natin sa board exam. So, ito ay ang law on business transactions. So, meron tayong obligations, definition, sources of obligation and their concepts, law, contracts, quasi-contracts, delicts, and quasi-delicts. So, ang focus muna natin is yung definition. Introduction to obligations, Article 1156. Definition of obligation. Article 1156 explains what an obligation is in legal terms. An obligation is like a legal tie that binds someone to do something, give something, or refrain from doing something for someone else. It is derived from the Latin word obligatio, which means tying or binding. So, ibig sabihin daw po, ang obligation is like a legal tie. O, ibig sabihin ay parang may nagbabind sa kanya at sa isang person o sa isang person o at sa isa pang person na gumawa ng isang bagay o magbigay ng isang bagay o refrain from doing or parang pinipigilan siyang gumawa ng bagay o magbigay ng bagay sa isang tao o para sa isang tao. Dahil ito ay hindi legal or hindi naayon sa batas ng ating bansa. So, introduction to obligations. Article 1156, definition of obligation. Here is a simpler breakdown. Definition of obligation. An obligation is a legal necessity to do, give, or not do something for someone else. Juridical necessity. An obligation is a juridical necessity because if someone doesn't fulfill it, courts can enforce it. The person who fails to meet the obligation may be liable for damages, compensating the other party for any harm. Nature of obligations. There are civil obligations which can be enforced in courts, and natural obligations which aren't enforceable but may be fulfilled voluntarily. So, definition of obligation, yung sinabi ko na kanina yun. Juridical necessity. An obligation is a juridical necessity because if someone doesn't fulfill, ito yung involvement of court para sa mga hindi mag-fulfill ng kanilang obligation or kung anong mga agreement ng kanilang obligation sa isa't isa. Tapos, nature obligation, there are civil obligations and natural obligations. So, civil obligation, involvement of court. Natural obligation, ito yung mga walang involvement of court pero can be done voluntarily because of their conscience or something that makes them liable to do the obligation. So, essential elements of an obligation: passive subject, active subject, object or prestation, juridical tie. Passive subject, the person with that duty or the dator. Siya yung gagawa ng obligasyon. The person with the right or creditor or active subject, siya naman yung gagawa ng obligasyon. Object or prestation, what needs to be done, given or not done. Ito yung action. Tapos yung juridical tie, the connection of the source or the source of the obligation. Ito yung kung saan kung ano yung pinagmulan ng obligasyon. Kunwari ay ang itong mga example. Example, in a building contract, if X agrees to construct a house for Y for 1 million pesos, X is the one doing it. Active subject. Y is the one receiving it. Passive subject. The house construction is the task, prestation, and the contract is the legal tie. Ito yung source of obligation. Yung contract. In another scenario, where Y agrees to pay X after the construction is finished, X becomes the one waiting for the payment. Active subject. Mali. Wait, yung unang example pala, X is the one doing it. Passive subject pala to. Y is the one receiving it. Active subject. The house construction is the task, prestation, and the contract is the legal tie. Yung gagawa, yung yun pala. Tapos, in the scenario where Y agrees to pay X after the construction is finished, X becomes the one waiting for payment, active subject, and Y becomes the one who needs to pay, passive subject. Form of obligation, form requirement in contracts. Generally, contracts don't need a specific form of validity. Other obligations from different sources have no required form. So, distinguishing obligations right and wrong. Obligation, something that law enforces. So, ito ay obliged, obligasyon. You are liable to do it because of the law. Dahil ito ay nasa batas at ito ay dapat mong gawin para sa batas o para sa pag-oblige o paggawa ng obligasyon mo sa batas. Right? The legal power to demand something from another. The legal power to demand something from another. So, ito yung right mo, yung karapatan mo na na kunin o kumuha ng something na obliged na kunin mo para sa iyo. So parang ikaw ay may karapatan para sa bagay na yon dahil ito ay para sa iyo talaga at dahil ito ay obligasyon ng isang tao para sa iyo. Tapos wrong, an act violating someone's legal right, causing harm. Ito naman yung mga mistake. An act violating someone's legal right, causing harm. Yun, pagkakamali o parang isang action na hindi nagawa sa iyo na hindi naayon sa batas o sa right mo. Yun. Tapos, essential elements of cause of action. Legal right of the plaintiff, obligation of the defendant, act or omission violating the right, causing harm. Cause of action and time. Essential elements of cause of action. Legal right of the plaintiff. Plaintiff is the complainant. Siya yung nagko-complain. Basta siya yung nagko-complain. Tapos, the obligation of the defendant. Ito naman yung obligation ng defendant. Yung obligasyon na dapat magawa ng defendant. Kung sino man si defendant. Si creditor ba o si debtor. As acts or omission violating the right, causing harm. Ito yung wrong. Ito yung sinasabing wrong na nagawa ng defendant. Tapos, cause of action and time. Cause of action arises when a right is violated. Yon, cause of action. Ito yung action na nagawa dahil may nagawa siya na hindi kaya-aya o hindi naayon sa right ng isang tao. Lawsuits need all cause of action elements. Lawsuits need all cause of action elements. Ayun, tama. Dahil yung mga essential elements ng cause of action, kailangan yun sa lawsuits. Tapos, the last element occurrence determines cause of action. So, kung yung pinakalas na occurrence, cause of action na pinakalas. Ay na magdedetermine sa cause of action o yung cause of action ng korte. Cause of action ng korte. Relation between right and obligation. No obligation without a corresponding right and vice versa. They go hand in hand. Yan, tama. Kung walang right, wala namang obligasyong mangyayari. At kung wala namang obligasyon, wala namang mababaylit na right. Tapos, they go hand in hand. Ibig sabihin, magkatugma sila o magka-complement. So, parang magkasama sila palagi. So, illustrative case. Situation. S cancels the property sale contract before the buyer exercises the option. Outcome. Buyer has a cause of action due to S breach. So, situation dito, si S na seller, kinancel yung property sale contract bago pa man si buyer mag-exercise ng option. Ibig sabihin, yung option niya ng pag-buy o yung option contract, yung pag-buy. So, bago pa mag-exercise ng contract si buyer, si S nag-cancel na ng property sale contract. So, hindi pa naman sila dapat ganon. So, outcome, buyer has a cause of action due to S breach. So, nagkaroon sila ng involvement sa korte dahil sa cause of action na yon. Tapos, time limits for contract actions. Actions based on a written contract. 10 years from the breach. Injury, damage, and damages. Wrongful invasion of a legal right. Ibig sabihin, invasion. So, in-invade niya yung legal right. Hindi ko pa satabi ko anong legal right. Sa mga susunod pang video, o siya madi-discuss. Damage, loss resulting from injury. So, ito yung loss na nag-cause dahil sa injury o yung wrongful invasion of a legal right. Tapos, damages, money recoverable for the loss. So, yung damage na kunwari nawalan ng nasiraan ng ng lights yung kotse dahil sa kasalanan ng bisikleta. Magkakaroon siya ng legal right, hindi ba? Ng damage dahil sa nangyaring yon, at yung damage na yon pwede siyang bayaran through damages or fines. Dahil sa karapatan yon ng complainant. Existence of one without the other. Injury without damage and vice versa are possible. Ibig sabihin, injury, dahil magkakaroon ng injury kahit walang damage, posible din. Kahit damage din, magkakaroon din kahit walang injury, pwede. So, liability for exercising legal rights. Using legal rights doesn't harm others. Damages only if damage results from a breach of legal duty. Illustrative case on delay. X delays goods delivery while contesting forfeiture. X not liable for damages due to exercising legal rights. Kinds of obligation. Legal obligation. Give a thing. Ito yung mga obligasyon na ikaw ay magbibigay ng something sa creditor. Tapos, personal obligation, doing or not doing something. Ito naman, yung gagawa ka ng something or hindi ka gagawa ng something para sa creditor at kung ano pa mang gawain o ano pa mang at kung sino pa man. Yun. O ano pa man. So, yun. Yun lang po muna hanggang sa ngayon. Yun lang po muna ngayon ang lesson natin ngayon, mga ka-KJ. That is the definition of obligation. Sana po muna natutunan kayo kahit konti sa ating vlog sa ngayon. Kung gusto niyo pa pong makapanood ng mga ganitong video, please do like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell para po sa amin ni Ate Jen and as a support na rin po. So, para mas lalo pa tayong mag-grow as a community and as a channel. So, that's it. Ito po si Ke and this is Learning and Exploring with Ken and Jen. Learn with us, even in pajamas. Bye and have a good day.